Hi Natto fans, this is Natto Dad. With so many people out there who do not eat soybeans, I wanted to try different kinds of beans to make natto. And I'm comfortable making soybean natto as I have made over 100 batches, so I wanted to see if the same methods apply to other beans as well. So this series will be more exploratory in nature than a how-to video, with the goal to make some tasty natto with silky threads. I'll start with mung beans, and a big shout out to Ramon, who is already making mung bean natto in Valencia, Spain. So that got me interested to make some. So let's get to it. I bought a bag of mung beans, also known as moyashi beans, from an Asian grocery store. And out of the 3 trials, this is the first one, and I weighed up 200 grams. I kept the same method as when making soybean natto, so after weighing, I wash the beans 3 times until the water runs clear. After washing, I fill it with water, and this will be the soaking water, and it will sit there for about 20 hours. This is a size comparison between the mung bean on the left and the Kotsubu natto soybean on the right. After 20 hours, the mung beans have puffed up really nicely, and some of them have even started sprouting. After draining the beans, I fill the pressure cooker with water, and you only need about a centimeter or so. As you can see, the ramekins will displace the water, and they'll be a little bit higher on the pot. I will sanitize the fermenting tray with chlorine, but you can also use heat or any other cleaning method if you don't want to use chemical. And don't forget to sanitize your spoons as well. So on the first trial, I pressure steam for 30 minutes, and this is very similar to what I do to soybeans, which I usually steam for 40 minutes. So after it builds pressure, I'll start the timer for 30 minutes and lower the temperature so it doesn't overpressurize. So the tray and spoons have been sanitizing while the beans are steaming, and I will wash it with fresh water to get the chlorine out of the tray and the spoons. After the pressure cooker has depressurized, very carefully open the lid, and you can see that the beans are fully cooked and ready to go. After putting the mung beans on the tray, I put 1 cube of the frozen packaged natto as the starter and cover with the hot beans to thaw it out a little bit for about a minute or 2. I then put 3 spoonfuls of liquid from the pot to add a little bit of moisture to the fermentation. After the frozen starter has thawed, make sure to mix thoroughly so every single bean has lactobacteria on it. To avoid the drying of the beans, I devised the double clink method, which mimics packaged natto. So the first cling wrap goes directly on top of the beans. So I first poke holes with a toothpick and I lay it on top of the beans directly. For the second cling wrap, I put it on top of the tray, and this creates an air pocket in between, and this also gets poked with a toothpick to have breathing holes. To give you an idea, this is how cooked the mung beans were. This is my heating source. It is a 150-watt ceramic heat emitter that's connected to a hydrofarm thermostat, and there you can control the temperature setting, and it also has a probe that goes in the oven. The power comes from the wall. This is the setup inside the oven: the ceramic heat emitter on the bottom, a bowl with water for extra moisture, and then the fermenting tray as well as the probe on the very top. I set the thermostat to 100 Fahrenheit, which is 38 degrees Celsius, and after 20 hours the fermentation is complete, so I take out the tray out of the oven. Right out of the fermentation, the mung beans didn't have too much of a thread, so the beans looked a little bit loose. Even with some more mixing, you can see that it has a little bit of threads, but it's not as strong. And with soy sauce, I tried to build the threads a little bit more, but you can see that the threads are very weak. So after 4 days in the fridge, I took it out to see how it was going. And I can leave it in the fridge right after fermentation up until 2 weeks. After storing the natto in the fridge up to 2 weeks, I usually portion out and put it in the freezer. So after adding soy sauce, I mix it up a little bit, and I can see that maybe the threads have relaxed a little bit, and I can see a little bit more threads, so it looks positive. So by pressure steaming for 30 minutes, I would say it makes pretty decent natto out of mung beans. So on the second trial, I pressure steam for a shorter time, so this is 10 minutes. Compared to the mung beans that were steamed for 30 minutes, I would say the ones that were steamed for 10 minutes turned out a little bit harder, so I believe this was undercooked a little bit. I found that when the beans are hard or undercooked, the natto has a really hard time growing, and that's evident with the weaker threads that you can see on these mung beans that were cooked for 10 minutes compared to the ones that were cooked for 30 minutes. On the third trial, I boiled the beans for 12 minutes, and I usually don't recommend boiling beans because the flavor leaches out and also the beans become a little bit too watery. So when the beans are watery, sometimes the natto doesn't grow well, but in this case the threads look much better than the pressure steam beans. One issue was that the flavor was a little bit bitter, and also the texture was a little bit too mushy for my taste. So hope you could have picked up some tips from the 3 trials, and I'll see you on the next one. So to conclude, pressure steam for 30 minutes was my favorite, good flavor. Threads were okay, and the ones that were steamed for 10 minutes were a little bit too hard and undercooked. And lastly, the boiled beans were a little bit mushy, and I didn't care too much for the flavor.